Media, keeping you company this Ramadan.
Well, we continue with the broadcast this afternoon right here on Salam Media on the Iftar Drive. The time is just gone 5:26 p.m. and the whole question surrounding Phala Phala is not going to go away. Cyril Ramaphosa and Phala Phala has been with us for a long time, and it is still continuing to create major discussion and raise also major concerns. Now, one of the persons that has raised this concern has been the former president of the country, Mbeki, in a letter to the ANC. The ANC have acknowledged that they have this received, they've received this letter, where he raised a number of issues, and he has actually thrown the cat amongst the pigeons once again in this letter that is written to the governing party. To unpack all of this, we are joined by a political analyst joining us from the Northwest Province, Professor Andre Duvenage. Professor Andre, good afternoon to you, sir. It's been a long, long time since we've chatted, but as always, welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Inayet. Yes, it's indeed a long time, but nice talking to you.
Yes, the whole question surrounding Phala Phala and Thabo Mbeki, this letter that was written, and in fact, funny enough, you know how these letters actually leak out, but the key issue here is the ANC say that they have received this letter. It is got to do with Cyril Ramaphosa and raising serious concerns about the manner in which the ANC has managed this entire debacle, Prof.
Yes, Inayet, indeed. But before discussing the Thabo Mbeki scenario, I just would like to show you another example of what is going on in Israel. And there are strong parallels between the Ramaphosa position with regard to Phala Phala and Benjamin Netanyahu's situation in Israel, where he wants to take the corruption charges away from the jurisdiction of the judiciary to the jurisdiction of Parliament, to give Parliament a decision about his corruption. And as you could see, I think he fired his Minister of Defense, who was in opposition against it, and there were huge riots in Israel over the last few days. So it's an interesting thing. Now, coming to Thabo Mbeki, I think there's a parallel between the situation of Netanyahu and the position of Ramaphosa. And Thabo Mbeki is extremely critical about the ANC. And it seems as if he is concerned about the integrity of the organization and the so-called moral high ground, taking decisions on the level of the moral high ground. And I think in many ways, he is absolutely right. If we go into the shorter history of Phala Phala, it was a claim with political motivation. Coming from Arthur Fraser, and we know his history, we know his position in South African state security, etc., etc. But what he put on table was a legitimate case with strong evidence. And on basis of that, Cyril Ramaphosa appointed an independent committee to report to Parliament. And the independent committee decided that there's a prima facie case that should be investigated. And then he took it to Parliament, and as we know, the ANC voted against it. And clearly, that is not in line with democratic practices. Now, I'm not a judiciary person or a person knowing the law in detail, but listening to some of the law people in my environment, it seems as if there are about 14 charges, 1/4 charges against the president. And some of them are very, very serious. Now, I think what normally happens in these cases, other people will take the punishment. for this. For example, Wally Rode and maybe a deputy minister here and the minister responsible for the cabinet or presidency, whatever the case may be. He will bring a number of people, identify them, take them away. That is how the politics are working. But it seems pointing so directly to Cyril Ramaphosa. And now we know he is the main fighter against corruption. He has the Zondo Commission to implement, and he has no legitimacy. And the voice of Thabo Mbeki in this regard is very important. But the long and the short, Thabo is right, Ramaphosa is wrong. The case should be investigated if we are a bona fide democracy with an independent judiciary.
Yes, Prof. Also, interesting that you drew those parallels between what is happening with Benjamin Netanyahu and Cyril Ramaphosa. And, I'm just trying to think, is this the way that governments are actually starting to operate? Is this the way they're going to operate? Where we've seen even recently in Pakistan, the government trying to influence the Supreme Court, on matters so that they can postpone elections for their own benefit. And this is how politicians have actually become of late. And I'm sure in your experience, Prof, you've seen so much taking place in the political landscape, both in this country and in many other countries. And are we seeing a shift where politicians like Cyril Ramaphosa, people like Benjamin Netanyahu will virtually get away with murder?
Well, I think this is not a new phenomenon. This happened several times. If we think the way of Zuma and many others dealt with our judicial system, you will remember we talked about Stalingrad strategy of undermining the judiciary. And clearly, this is not a unique phenomenon. Generally speaking, in a democracy, there is a bit of trouble with the balance of forces when it comes to the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. And in many cases, in modern democracies, the executive is outmaneuvering the legislative processes. They are dominating parliament. But then, normally, the judiciary can intervene and the judiciary can restore their powers. But it seems at the moment, due to further deployments and other things, that the judiciary, in many ways, are compromised. And I must tell you, I am very, very much concerned about the independence of our judiciary, about the effectiveness, their efficiency, their moral guidelines. Look at the time span we have taken against Ramaphosa, against Zuma, against Shule, against other senior people that got of the Cape higher called Slope. And we have this huge incident of violence in ZN during July 2021. And no one was arrested because it came from within the ANC. It seems to me, at least in the South African context, the George Orwell saying of all equal, but some are more equal than others, seems to be applicable to South Africa. And it seems as if Ramaphosa is going precisely the same way.
Well, Prof, thank you very much for that. And as always, for your time with us here on Salam Media. And I'm sure you and I will be engaging a lot more looking ahead and going into the future. But for now, we appreciate your time as always. And please take care.
Thank you very much.
Professor Andre Duvenagel with us this afternoon. A quick break, we come back, and it's our humanitarian feature. And this afternoon, we are featuring Muslimas on call.